when we signed a record deal with EMI, which was 4 years ago, EMI was a kind of big, powerful company that took on bands like us that didn't have any money and basically made your career for you in some ways by promoting you all around the world, and that's kind of, and they gave you money to help to go on tour and promote your records, and now that situation has completely changed.
Now there's not that many people there. The people that are there are quite disheartened, and it's all, yeah, I mean, it basically can be directly traced to the, just loss of income through digital downloads, and it's something that we have to sort of think about. We don't really, sort of dwell on it too much, but the sort of the saddest thing for us, I suppose, has been like people that we worked with for quite a while at EMI that we had a relatively good relationship with were just, suddenly not there anymore because they had, a lot of people were laid off, and there was a particular time when there was people going into, not just at EMI but lots of other major labels and larger independent labels, and they would just go in and not know whether they were going to have a job by the end of the day.
I feel like we're lucky that we signed a record deal at the time that we did, because it allowed us to have a career that I worry that we wouldn't have been able to have if we didn't have that support early on. So from that point of view, I think we've been really lucky, and I don't think other artists will have that. But the really creative ones and the really good ones, I think will still rise to the top eventually. But they might just have to be a bit more savvy about how they kind of market themselves, which is a bit sad, because there should be musicians out there who are just total hippies or weirdos, and they're just really good at making music, and they're not good at anything else, but they should still have an audience, and I kind of still want to be able to hear them in some way.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a revolution. It just feels like one business model has become outdated because of the way that technology has changed. But as an artist, it doesn't necessarily affect you that much, other than that you have to kind of think about where your money and where your income is coming from in a different way than maybe you did 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
The management team that we're with also managed the Chemical Brothers, and they were saying to us that, if we'd have been around 10 years ago, all the records that we have been making would have sold, 2 or 3 times as much, just easily. And I think that when you've got that as part of what you do, if you can rely on that income, it makes a lot of things easier, because, finances give you the freedom as an artist to do some of the things that you like to do. Like we wouldn't necessarily want to be doing quite as much touring as we have been doing for the last 5 years. Like generally when we put an album out, we were on the road for nearly the whole year, and we had to make a very deliberate decision last year to not tour and concentrate on making the album. And it was only 3 albums into our career that we had the financial cushion to say that we could do that. And I mean, I think that it's a little bit of a shame that artists can't, just don't have quite that freedom that they may have had through the financial cushion of selling records. I'm not really interested in money per se. Obviously, it's nice to make a living doing what you enjoy doing, but I do, I am quite concerned about, just having the freedom that it gives you, and I feel as though we're in a very unique position, and as being like a kind of pop band that have kind of aspirations to make kind of sort of slightly stranger experimental music or do other sort of more obscure projects, and we're able to buy the equipment and have the time to do these things that there's a lot of bands that I really, really like that can't do that because they're not in the position. But I think it'll be this definitely quite a pivotal time. There's a lot of upheaval for bands and for record labels, and you have to remember it's a very short history to pop music. It's only been going in earnest since like the mid-60s, really, in the sort of form that we recognise it. So there's nothing to say that the older models had any real legitimacy. That's just the way it's sort of turned out. Felix and I were sometimes saying that certain styles of music, I think, suffer because of that, because of the immediacy of it. So like, for instance, when our this recent album of ours came out, there was a lot of kind of confusion and people weren't really sure what to make of it, and they wanted something very immediate because they wanted to sort of they don't have to go to a shop or anything. They've just got it straight away, and I think that kind of music, which you have to listen to a few times, can suffer from that immediate judgment that people sometimes make.
Yeah,
online.
That is true. Yeah, because you just get this thing where people click through files of an album, that maybe it took like 1.5 years to make or something. It's not like you can't really audition music in that way. Like listen to the first 10 seconds, then be like, no, that's boring. No, that's da-da-da. I mean, obviously you can do that, but it's not exactly a very refined way of finding music that actually might be meaningful to you over a long period of time. It's just like it becomes like you're just processing data almost. If you do it all through a computer screen, you're denying yourself the pleasure of just listening to music, and you're making it just like another task, like checking your emails or updating your Twitter or whatever. You're like, now I'm doing this, now I'm going to listen to some music, as if it's like, it's not.
Yeah, people don't really have the experience. I mean, again, it does sound so old-fashioned to talk about it, but like getting the album, taking it back home, and then just like putting it on and just like either with your headphones on or whatever, and just listening to the whole thing. It was just something that our generation did, and that sort of doesn't seem to happen anymore. And I think that you can actually hear it changing the music. One of the things that I find interesting is mapping the level of compression on records from like the 70s to today, and records like, I don't know, so like a Black Sabbath record or something like that, which you think of as being really heavy and loud. You'd actually look at the wave form of it, and there's lots of dynamism within that music. And then you look at something like a Lady Gaga record or something like that, and it's just like a sort of block of sound where everything's maximum level all the time. And I think the reason for that is because people want to listen to something on the radio or play something, and it wants to be so immediately just like super exciting, and kind of but it starts to become a bit meaningless, because you can make almost anything, just sort of bring up the compression level and make everything kind of very raucous sounding. And I do find that's something that's been lost, really. It has a value to us, but I think increasingly to kids that are like 13, 14, 15 now, that have no memory really of having physical like representations of music.
Ooh.
For those kids, it probably isn't very relevant, and they just say, what are those big
there's no inherent value in it, other than that pictures are kind of pleasing to the eye, and it's nice to see like a big picture with something on it if it's nice. But I think I have felt myself that I'm not so bothered about vinyl. I used to be fairly like obsessed with having nice old records, but now I just couldn't really care less in some ways.
It depends how many times you've moved house in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it really wears you down. In the
if
end,
you've got like a big record collection, then you're just like, oh man, I'm moving again, and now I've got to pack all that stuff.
I mean, they sound absolutely amazing, and there's no doubt about that. But I'm just fed up with them.
Yeah, I put my back out twice, and because Felix and I played records in like techno clubs and for many years, and I don't really feel as though I've got anything to prove about playing records. Like, I can do it, but yeah, the second time my back went, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's fine. Like, people are dancing to the music, not the format. So